The wrestling world erupted when Jon Moxley delivered one of the most vicious beatdowns in all Elite Wrestling history, targeting the controversial manager Don Callis in a confrontation that left fans on their feet and social media buzzing for days. This wasn't just another backstage brawl or scripted altercation that wrestling fans have grown accustomed to seeing. This was raw, intense, and felt dangerously real as Moxley unleashed years of built-up frustration on the man who has made a career out of manipulating situations and wrestlers for his own gain. If you're a fan of high-stakes drama and intense wrestling action, make sure to hit that subscribe button because we're diving deep into one of the most talked-about moments in recent wrestling history. The tension between Jon Moxley and Don Callis had been simmering for months, with Callis constantly inserting himself into situations that didn't concern him while managing some of the most dangerous competitors in AEW. Callis has built his reputation as a master manipulator, someone who pulls strings behind the scenes and watches chaos unfold from a safe distance. He's the kind of personality who thrives on controversy, always finding ways to get under the skin of wrestlers and fans alike. His silver tongue and ability to talk his way out of dangerous situations have kept him safe for years, but on this particular night, all that cunning and all those words wouldn't be enough to protect him from the wrath of Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley has never been one to play by the rules or follow traditional wrestling etiquette. His career has been defined by his willingness to go to extreme lengths to prove a point and settle scores. From his days in developmental territories to his time in major promotions around the world, Moxley has built a reputation as someone who backs up his words with action. He doesn't make empty threats, and when he sets his sights on someone, that person should be genuinely concerned about their well-being. Moxley's style is unorthodox, brutal, and effective, blending technical wrestling ability with a street-fighting mentality that makes him one of the most dangerous competitors in the business. The events leading up to this confrontation began weeks earlier when Callis made comments about Moxley's wrestling style and questioned his relevance in the current AEW landscape. Callis, never one to shy away from controversy, suggested that Moxley was past his prime and that newer talent managed by Callis himself represented the future of professional wrestling. These weren't just casual comments made in passing. Callis delivered these insults with his trademark smirk, knowing full well that he was poking a bear that had no problem mauling anyone who crossed him. The wrestling community immediately sensed that something significant was brewing, and speculation ran wild about when and how Moxley would respond to these provocations. Moxley didn't respond immediately through social media or interviews. Instead, he let the tension build, allowing Callis to become more comfortable and more brazen in his criticisms. This is classic Moxley strategy, letting his opponents dig themselves deeper into a hole before he strikes. During this period, Callis continued managing his clients to victories, constantly reminding everyone that his wrestlers were superior to anyone Moxley could stand against. Callis would appear on AEW programming with his clients, celebrating their wins and taking every opportunity to take subtle and not-so-subtle shots at Moxley's expense. The arrogance was building to dangerous levels, and anyone familiar with Moxley knew that payback was coming. The night of the confrontation started like any other AEW broadcast, with matches scheduled and storylines progressing as planned. Don Callis was at ringside managing one of his clients in a high-profile match. He was dressed in his typical expensive suit, looking smug and confident as always. Callis was in his element, barking instructions at his wrestler and jawing with fans at ringside who were hurling insults his way. The match was intense and competitive, with both wrestlers delivering impressive performances. Callis was so focused on the action in the ring and his role as manager that he didn't notice Moxley making his way through the crowd. Jon Moxley emerged from the audience like a predator stalking prey, moving with purpose and intensity that immediately caught the attention of fans in his vicinity. The crowd's reaction began to build as more people noticed Moxley's presence, creating a wave of noise that spread throughout the arena. Moxley wasn't in his wrestling gear. He was dressed in street clothes, which made his appearance even more threatening because it signaled that this wasn't a scheduled segment or work-shoot scenario. This was personal business that needed to be handled immediately. Security personnel noticed Moxley but seemed uncertain about whether they should intervene, given his status as a major AEW star and the unpredictable nature of the situation. Callis remained oblivious to the danger approaching him from behind. He was still focused on the match, gesturing wildly and shouting instructions. The commentary team noticed Moxley first, and their voices rose with excitement and concern as they tried to alert viewers to what was about to happen. Moxley hopped the barricade with the agility of someone half his age, landing firmly on the floor at ringside just feet away from where Callis stood. The impact of Moxley's boots hitting the ground seemed to reverberate through the arena, and in that split second before chaos erupted, there was an eerie moment of calm where everyone seemed to realize something significant was about to occur. Callis turned around just in time to see Moxley charging toward him with murderous intent written across his face. The color drained from Callis's face as he realized the danger he was in. He tried to back away, stumbling over cables and equipment at ringside in his desperate attempt to escape. Callis held up his hands in a futile gesture of surrender, trying to talk his way out of the situation as he had done so many times before. His mouth was moving rapidly, likely pleading for mercy or attempting to explain away his previous comments, but Moxley wasn't interested in conversation. This was a time for action, not words. Moxley grabbed Callis by his expensive suit jacket and yanked him forward with tremendous force. The fabric of the suit offered no protection as Moxley delivered a brutal punch directly to Callis's face. The impact was sickening, and Callis crumpled immediately, his legs giving out beneath him. Moxley didn't let him fall completely to the ground. Instead, he held Callis up and delivered another crushing blow, then another. Each punch landed with precision and power, showing that Moxley wasn't just throwing wild haymakers but was deliberately punishing Callis for every insult and every disrespectful comment he had made over the previous weeks. The match in the ring had stopped completely as the wrestlers and referee turned their attention to the chaos unfolding at ringside. Security personnel finally sprang into action, rushing toward the scene in an attempt to pull Moxley off Callis. But Moxley was operating on pure adrenaline and rage, making him nearly impossible to control. He shrugged off the first security guard who tried to grab him, sending the man sprawling with a simple shoulder check. Another security guard approached more cautiously, and Moxley shot him a look that conveyed a clear message to stay back or suffer the same fate as Callis. Don Callis was now on the ground, his suit torn and his face already showing signs of the beating he had just received. But Moxley wasn't finished. He dragged Callis toward the ring steps, and the crowd erupted in anticipation of what might come next. Moxley positioned Callis's head near the steel steps, and for a moment it looked like he might do something that would result in serious injury. The commentary team was screaming for someone to stop this before it went too far. Referees and more security personnel flooded the ringside area, finally managing to get enough bodies between Moxley and Callis to prevent further damage. Even as multiple people held him back, Moxley continued straining against them, trying to get back to Callis to inflict more punishment. He was shouting something at Callis, though the exact words were difficult to make out over the noise of the crowd and the chaos of the situation. Callis was being helped to his feet by officials, blood visible on his face and his expensive suit completely ruined. He looked dazed and disoriented, a stark contrast to the confident, smug persona he had displayed just minutes earlier. The reality of what happens when you push Jon Moxley too far was now crystal clear to everyone watching. The crowd's reaction was deafening, with most fans cheering wildly for Moxley's actions. Love him or hate him, Callis had generated enough heat with fans that seeing him get his comeuppance was immensely satisfying for the majority of the audience. Signs and banners supporting Moxley were waving throughout the arena, and chants of his name echoed through the building. This was the kind of organic, genuine crowd reaction that wrestling promotions dream about, the kind that can't be manufactured or scripted into existence. It was real emotion responding to real intensity. As security finally managed to escort Moxley away from the ringside area, he walked backward up the ramp, never taking his eyes off Callis. His expression showed no remorse or concern about potential consequences for his actions. Instead, Moxley looked satisfied, like someone who had just completed necessary business that had been pending for too long. He pointed at Callis one final time before disappearing behind the curtain, a gesture that seemed to promise that this might not be the end of their conflict. The message was clear to everyone watching, including Don Callis himself. Cross Jon Moxley at your own risk, because when payback comes it will be swift, brutal, and exactly what you deserve. The aftermath of this confrontation sent shockwaves through the wrestling industry. Social media exploded with reactions from fans, wrestlers, and industry insiders. Video clips of the beatdown went viral within minutes, being shared across multiple platforms and racking up millions of views. Wrestling news websites scrambled to provide coverage and analysis of what had transpired. Some praised Moxley for standing up for himself and refusing to let Callis's disrespect go unanswered. Others questioned whether the line between worked violence and legitimate assault had been crossed, sparking debates about where professional wrestling should draw boundaries in the modern era. Don Callis was treated by medical personnel backstage and reportedly suffered injuries that would keep him off television for several weeks. The visible damage to his face told the story of just how intense Moxley's assault had been. For someone who had spent his entire career hiding behind wrestlers and using words as his primary weapon, experiencing direct physical consequences was a new and unwelcome experience. Callis would later address the incident through social media posts and interviews, naturally portraying himself as a victim and vowing revenge through his stable of wrestlers. But everyone knew that the power dynamic between Callis and Moxley had fundamentally shifted after this encounter. Jon Moxley's actions that night reinforced everything that fans and fellow wrestlers already knew about him. He operates by his own code, answers disrespect with overwhelming force, and doesn't concern himself with the opinions of people who don't understand his mindset. Whether you view him as a hero standing up against a manipulative villain or as someone who took things too far, there's no denying that Moxley accomplished his goal. He sent a message not just to Don Callis but to anyone else in AEW who might consider testing him. The message was simple and direct. Talk all the trash you want, but understand that Jon Moxley will make you back up those words or face the consequences. This confrontation will undoubtedly be remembered as one of the defining moments of this era in All Elite Wrestling. It showcased the kind of compelling, must-see television that hooks fans and keeps them invested in storylines and characters. The authenticity of the emotions involved made it feel special and different from typical wrestling segments. In an industry where everything is scrutinized and analyzed for what's real and what's scripted, this moment felt genuine in a way that resonated with audiences. It reminded everyone why Jon Moxley remains one of the most compelling and dangerous figures in professional wrestling today. If you enjoyed this breakdown of one of the most intense moments in recent AEW history, don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on all the latest wrestling news, analysis, and exclusive content. The world of professional wrestling continues to deliver shocking moments and incredible storylines, and you won't want to miss what happens next in this ongoing saga between Jon Moxley and those who dare to cross him.